Our study of the Gospel of Mark that we've been involved in now for some time has taught me a few things. And I do love learning from the Word of God. And a couple of weeks we've been in the chapter 12 of the Gospel of Mark. And we've been learning about scribes and Pharisees and Sadducees. But Jesus began to talk about these men who were leaders of the church, or the church such as it seemed to be. Now, I believe that a true church is a place where people truly connect with God in the Spirit. And it's not just a lot of trappings and a lot of decoration and a lot of pomp and circumstance. It's a true relationship with God. And when we come together, we seek to enter into the Spirit in a connection with the Spirit that is God. So Jesus talks about the scribes, and he says, "Beware of the scribes who love to go in long clothing and love salutation in the marketplace." And so what this speaks to me about is people who are in the ministry, but something is not quite right. And it speaks to me of calling. And calling is such an important thing when it comes to ministry. And there have been times in my life when I've been around ministers, and they began to talk about things that are a part of the package of being a pastor or a minister, and talk about the different compensations and things of this nature. And I'm not opposed to a pastor being compensated fairly, but sometimes in listening to some of the conversations, it almost seemed to be that there's a little too much importance put upon that. Because ministry truly is a calling. And it's a calling to serve God. It's also a calling to love people. It's a calling of sacrifice. And I think it's important that we examine our calling and we examine our motives for doing what we do, being in a ministry and being a leader of a congregation or whatever it is that God has called you to do. But you have that title. You're a pastor, missionary, whatever it is that you may be. We have to examine our calling. We have to always take a look inside and examine ourselves, because I don't think it's hard to get off the path that God has called us to be on. I think it's very, very easy to get caught up into other things and lose the true purpose of our calling, and that is God speaking and God given direction and a person responding to that call. And as Jesus began to talk about these, he said they have all the trappings of being somebody who's so very, very important, but yet their ministry does not show that. And I think that's something that we have to consider. How does our ministry measure up as into the true mission that God has called us to do as pastors and missionaries and people who lead people? Pastor Jack King with the Gospel on the radio broadcast.